Hello?
Yes. This is Derry Harper who's speaking.
Hi, Derry. Scott Donaldson here. My wife, Amy.
All right. And Mr. and Mrs. Donaldson, I am working from home today, and we have been, as an office, working more from home than we have at the Federal Reserve Bank building. Any follow-up conversations, of course, we can do virtually, Zoom or WebEx or something like this. But I wanted to talk to just you. I want to add Mr. Peterson on as your attorney.
Peterson.
So Ed, have you? Peterson?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ed, have you added him on? Ed.
Ed went to get Mr. Peterson, I believe.
All right. Well, then let me just wait until he's on the line.
Mr. Harper, while we're here,
yes.
Did and I may have misunderstood this, but did you lose some children yourself? Great conversation with Graham. No one's calling. Oh. Mr. Michelle?
And a call dropped. Apologies. I have your attorney on the other line, and now I'll dial back in the Inspector General, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Jonathan.
Okay, I'm going to dial in the Inspector General now. Just give me 1 minute.
Sure.
Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, Doc, how are you?
We're doing good. Amy's here, too.
Hey.
Good.
I think it's
I'm in the car, so I'm going to mute mine so y'all don't hear the background noise, but I'm still here.
Okay.
I think it's just us, too. No reporters.
Okay, good.
Okay, I have, I think everybody on. Let's just do a mic check. Mr. and Mrs. Donaldson?
Yes,
Speaking.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Okay, and I
right.
have the Inspector General on.
Right. And Mr. Donaldson, when we got cut off, you were asking me a question, so.
If I misunderstood this, or did you understand you lost a child, Mr.?
I am definitely sad to report that since we last met, my eldest son passed away unexpectedly in April of this year.
Sorry.
So when I first met Mrs. Donaldson, I shared with her at one point that another son of mine passed away now 8 years ago at a very young age. So we are still, as a family, dealing with that, and just trying to make it day by day.
I can only understand half of what you've been through, and we certainly pray for you and your family, and it's a heavy load.
I understood. I was trying to share with her that sentiment that I don't know how you feel, but I know what you were going through.
Yes, sir.
In losing a son at such a young age.
Yes,
and
sir.
My son David was 40 years old. Michael was 30. And I'm only now able to even talk about it. But thank you so much for your kind words. And we'll take all the prayers, my family and I, we'll take all the prayers we can get.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, Mr. Peterson, are you there, sir?
Yes, I am.
All right.
I'm in the car, and so I'm going to mute the phone so you don't hear all the background, but I'm still here.
All right. I'm going to be very brief, and I know I'm going to leave questions on the table for you. But I wanted you to know that the Inspector General's office has completed their review of all issues within our authority to review pursuant to the Memorandum of Understanding between the police department and the IG's office. That Memorandum of Understanding limits our investigative authority to those individuals where there have been violations or alleged violations of administrative procedures, processes, or rules for those, and keep me straight, above the captain level. The designation that they use are the white shirts. That includes the superintendent, the deputy superintendent, and anyone in that command group. Ed, did I get that right? Is it captain and above, or could it go down lower?
No, the deputy superintendent and above, and the individuals that were commanders that are now called captains. So it's basically the deputy superintendent and above, just because of the representation.
Right. Now, I know Mr. Peterson and you are very interested in this. Pursuant to this Memorandum of Understanding, the Office of Inspector General does not have the authority to release the report. That is clearly stated. So any request for the actual report has to go directly to the superintendent, to Ms. Westbrook, who is his deputy and is primarily responsible for administering it. But when you obtain a copy of that document, myself, Mr. Michelle, and the investigators who worked and did the actual review will be available for us to have a follow-up question.
Okay.
I'm not at liberty at this point in time to talk to the press, which is why I did not add the reporter on. If I'm called, I'm going to basically say the same thing. I'm not going to answer a whole lot of questions. And secondly, the independent police monitor, while engaged in looking at some aspects of this, is not involved. They're an independent entity in an investigation of the type that we conducted. In fact, we've got more, and Ms. Hudson and her team do a whole lot with a look. We have a different mission, and we also have folks who are more resources to put on an investigation. I want to express my deepest sympathies to you. I know this has been very, very difficult last few years for you. And once that report is made available to you, we'll make ourselves available. Any questions?
Is it subject on that? Is it subject to a public records request?
I can't give you legal advice. I would certainly not try to give you any more guidance. It might even fall into that. That's a question for the police department, for the NOPD or the city attorney's office or their legal counsel to answer.
Got it. Understood. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So when did I know you have completed the case, but does that mean you then have turned it back into the police department?
Yeah, under our standard operating procedure, we, in this particular instance, gave them 30 days to respond to our findings, and they pretty much exceeded that. I got an official note from them today, really, saying that they had no further remarks or et cetera about the case. We do that as a control mechanism in case we miss something. It's definitely required in a audit or evaluation arena. It's required by the standards. In investigations, we don't always do it, but if it's a department that has such a serious issue as this, we thought it was necessary to follow that same pattern. So they've had at least 30 days to review it and have expressed any objections to our findings or conclusions.
You can't tell us anything about your findings or conclusions.
I'm not at liberty to disclose it. It's one of the few times where we have any situation where once we've completed a matter But under that separate memorandum of understanding, which I do believe is a public record, I would certainly say so. But again, it may not be, according to the police department. The actual contents of and results of the investigation, it's their authority and their authority only when to make that public, if at all.
So can I ask a question?
Certainly.
So you were just investigating essentially the white shirts portion of this.
What I said to you was kind of verbatim from the memorandum of understanding.
Yeah.
If in fact we had found anything else, we would have had an obligation to report it to NOPD, and obviously I don't want to speculate about that. We did not in this particular instance refer any additional matters to them. Our authority in these administrative ends of the investigation, because they have, you already know this, they have a robust internal affairs procedure and process, and it does take some expertise in that area because police officers are given additional rights and things of this type. But in an administrative matter like this, they have to increase objectivity and independence on the investigation itself, since it could include the superintendent, his deputies, or those folks in the commander/captain level. The inspector general in the previous administration of this office entered into a memorandum of understanding. The current superintendent and I we didn't have to re-implement it. We signed a new agreement just to make sure that both our names were on it. As you know, he's been on board for a year or so now. I forget how long. So we have that same agreement with them. And I don't know the history as well. I bet Mr. Pedersen would, but of course the NOPD is under a consent decree. So they felt that this was one way to add some autonomy. I don't report to the superintendent. I don't report to Ms. Westbrook. We write and produce this document based on our own investigation.
Is there any identifying information that you can provide that would help me formulate a request should I send one?
And didn't we apply an OIG number to this?
Yes, I can. Mr. Peterson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I can see what our identifier code is for it, and
okay.
What I would suggest is that you simply just pick up the phone and call Miss Westbrook, and let her know that she had talked to us, and that would it be possible to get a copy of the report completed by the OIG.
Okay.
And I think that might be the most efficient, least intrusive manner, and I hopefully you'll be successful in that endeavor.
Okay.
Yeah, and Mr. Peterson, in an overabundance of caution, I'll check with our general counsel. We have to put a number on anything that we open up and do anything on. I'll just make sure that from her review, that would not violate the memorandum of understanding. So Ed's suggestion, I think, is a good first step to take. And then I'll be able to answer that question if you're not successful on whether I can disclose that.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Mr. and Mrs. Donaldson.
I have a question. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I didn't know if you're closing.
Right.
Well,
No, I'm not going.
did your investigation include Safety and Permits Department?
Let me pause a moment. The investigation was conducted pursuant to our memorandum of understanding with NOPD.
Right.
We do not have an allegation regarding the safety and permits that would fall clearly within the jurisdiction of the Inspector General, especially since you have, as I understand it, a civil matter going on in that regard. Now, it is known to the public in New Orleans that my office has been involved in an ongoing, an investigation of safety and permits in other areas that has resulted in the indictment or criminal information against one individual. And I disclosed to the mayor and the city council that we were involved in ongoing investigations of some activities at safety and permits not related to your son's circumstances. So, in other words, we're looking at other issues related to safety and permits than the ones you've raised. And at this time, I don't have a factual or legal basis to look any further into the issues that you raised in your lawsuit. I've not looked at the lawsuit. But if there are some that you think might fall within our jurisdiction that we don't know about, you can certainly make those available to us. But right now, the short answer is we have other matters where we're reviewing safety and permits that have been disclosed to the public. I'm dancing around the head of a pin, Mr. and Mrs. Donaldson. You deserve some straight talk. We're involved in looking at serious potential violations of criminal law regarding safety and permits.
Right, because you got the stinking Hard Rock Cafe in the middle of Canal Street.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So forgive me for going into that routine. I was thinking, okay, I got to talk that way, but that's not. You deserve to know that. I mean, and we're going to be continuing to work on those issues for some time. I'll be glad to share the letters with you. They're in the public domain that I sent to the mayor and the city council back in January.
Oh, I have it.
Made it very clear.
I have it.
I can share this with you. We are taking all of the aspects of that matter extremely seriously.
So let me ask you this. Are you guys looking back at any other inspections? What's your look back window? I mean, if you see this, I'm just going to say it, you might not, but the Hard Rock Cafe is in Canal Street. Do you really think that's the first violation, the first problem?
No, they've reported.
Or are you going to look back further? How far are you going to look back?
No, I can't comment on what we're looking at now. I can share with you what was in the press release from the U.S. Attorney's Office, and that is the allegations against the one individual that's been charged go back to 2014 with kind of an open-ended assertion in the charging document alleging that he took money in exchange for approving permits. So that would be my official way of answering that. But yeah, it goes back further.
Is his name in the public? Is that guy's name in the public domain?
It's Kelvin Richardson.
Kevin.
And there was a press release issued by the U.S. Attorney's Office that also disclosed that the Office of Inspector General had contributed to that investigation along with other federal agencies.
Okay.
Can I ask, I'm paying quite a lot of attention to the Safety and Permits Department and the new job description that the mayor has created that seems quite interesting for the new director, the Sonder person that came from San Francisco through Sonder. What Zach Smith, the former director, told us he told us two different things. One was that there was no oversight for windows. There was no code for windows over 60 feet. And then he told Katie Moore a few months later, and before he was demoted, that they weren't required to do anything related to the Saratoga loft apartments because it was historic. And he told her that there was really no actual means for how a building is decided to be historic or not historic. And I know you're not going to comment on it, but I wanted to comment on it because I think there's a big problem right there. And I see that the mayor's office is just bringing all those departments together. And that's concerning.
I made a note of that. We will add that to our...
Yes. You can follow me on Facebook and see everything that I think regularly.
Mr.
I don't do Facebook.
You're a wise man.
For obvious reasons.
You're a wise man.
Mm-hmm.
You probably
And
sleep
I don't
well.
mean to. I don't mean to change the tone. These are serious matters.
No, sir, but we have to.
But I have to say that the incident where the federal judge's family was brutally attacked by this guy that was able to obtain their address and was on, obviously, based on news reports, obviously a vendetta against that particular federal judge. Ed, of course, is a former FBI agent. I'm a former assistant United States attorney. Right now, I say after 40 years of being a licensed attorney, all my friends at my age are still working as judges. So we are in a time of some uncertainty, and obviously people who are acting out on all kinds of
People are
evil motives.
well,
So
you know.
I don't do Facebook because I'm easy enough to find as it is.
Yeah.
I don't blame you. Okay.
We have a Facebook page for the IG's office, so I will instruct those who know how to do Facebook to add you as a person so we can get any information that we distribute on Facebook and our Twitter.
Oh, I'm already following you on Facebook, your IG page.
Hey, good. We need to update it.
Yes, you do.
Make sure that we. Thank you. That's something that I'm not pleased with. Now, any other questions about this until you get or are able to obtain a copy of the report? We will reconvene at a date and time convenience to you if you obtain a copy of the report and have questions about our findings or how we conducted this particular review.
I have one more question.
Me too. When did you send the report to NOPD?
At least 30 days ago, if not more.
Well,
okay.
Ed told me that he was finished with his report on April 23rd.
Ed, can you tell me when we transmitted that?
I
Because
think we
I
sent it
was
about.
out.
Yeah.
I was out on April 23rd. What he was referring to is that I was out of the office
Right, I know.
for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so it was sometime after that. I don't recall.
Right, I just meant it as a reference.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's fine. Thank you.
Hmm.
I just wanted to make sure that NOPD couldn't tell me they didn't have it yet. That's all.
No, sir. They have it.
They can still tell you that.
They do.
Mr. Donaldson?
Yes.
Do you have the contact phone number for the commander, for Commander Westbrook?
Yes, I do.
Amy
but she,
does.
she, you know, she's very difficult to communicate with. But yes, we have the phone number.
Okay, and I sent you the since you were asking for since Mr. Harper mentioned the press release, that's a public document, so I already sent it to you on safety and permit, and then if I can recommend, maybe wait 24 hours before you contact Ms. Westbrook, and I'll facilitate them knowing that you're going to be calling them, and then so they'll be ready for the call, and then hopefully you'll have a smooth transaction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. and Mrs. Donaldson, again, my deepest condolences on the loss of your son, and I will be able to say more about what we could do, but we did do our best to review those issues under our clear-cut authority. So, but I didn't want to end without saying that to you and Mrs. Donaldson at the same time.
Thank you. I have one more additional question because I always have more questions. Is there any way to is there any way for us to know whether the FBI is actually investigating this or not?
Even if we knew that, we probably wouldn't be at liberty to discuss that. So I don't know what the Bureau is doing would be my response.
Do you ever come into a situation where the breadth of your jurisdiction comes to an end and you forward something over there to them?
That does happen, yes. As you'll see when you read that press release, that case that we worked jointly with I think the Bureau is specifically named in the press release, and the other agencies. Just the disclosure of that relationship generally is handled by whoever is primarily responsible for the matter. So we refer matters to them, have in the past, and it's in the public domain, and we'll continue with that practice.
Okay.
With our federal, you notice that I'm a former Fed, Ed's a former Fed. Our general counsel was with the U.S. Attorney's Office for 30-something years as an assistant U.S. attorney. So that's part of our mission, is to act in a law enforcement capacity, and when those administrative matters that we look into turn into facts and circumstances that may have a foundation in state or federal criminal law, then we work with those partners on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have. All right, then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll be available. Mr. Peterson, I'm sure we'll hear from you or the Donaldsons once you obtain that document, and we'll sit down and talk to you.
Absolutely.
All right. Have a good day.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Ed, I'll call you back in just a minute.
Yes, sir.
All right, bye.